That's right. Subscribe, hit the like button. We good to go? Good? Oh, here you go. So good evening. My name is Jason Imai. I am the Assistant City Engineer with the City of Newark Public Works Engineering Division. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight to the second community workshop for the Lindsay Tract Improvement Project. I would like to start tonight off by introducing the project team. So first, from the City of Newark, you can just raise your hand. We have Public Works Director Soren Fajot and Senior Civil Engineer Tran. And next, later tonight you'll hear that the city has formed a cooperative partnership with the Alameda County Water District. So tonight from the district, we have Engineering Manager Reka Ipagunta, who is actually joining us via Zoom. You'll be hearing from her later tonight, and Project Engineer Litek Lau. Next, we have Jason Mansfield from BKF Engineers, who is the city's engineering design consultant for the project. And lastly, we have Ed Espinoza and Jordan Brown from Francisco and Associates, who the city hired to study the potential formation of an area improvement district to help fund the construction of the project improvements. Tonight, we'll be presenting you the results of that study and provide you with the opportunity to ask any questions or provide any feedback on the results. All right, so let's get started. First, to provide a brief history of the project, in 2021, we held the first community open house events for the Lindsay Tract Improvement Project. I do see some familiar faces here, so I know that some of you tonight were here. Yeah, there you go. Do you see yourself? Is that you? That's you. There you go. So as you can see, we held the workshop at the Lindsay Tract neighborhood. I believe that's George Avenue cul-de-sac, right? And that evening, the project team here was available to present to you details on the conceptual plan and the project, answer any questions, and receive any feedback. And basically what we did is we took that feedback and the project team went back to the drawing board, refined the conceptual design, and then presented it to the city council for final approval, final approval of the conceptual plan in August of 2021. Now the city engineer's design consultant, Jason Mansfield, will go over the project improvements in more detail, but in general, the primary objective of the project is to replace the severely worn, we realize that, roadway pavement and fix the flooding issues that I'm sure all of you are familiar with. Is that your property too? That's your intersection. An example, like I said, that example is right there. That's actually an intersection. The photo at the top is actually from Lindsay Tract after a recent storm. The project will also replace or construct new concrete curb, sidewalk and driveways, and install new green infrastructure improvements, examples of which are shown in the bottom two photos. Green infrastructure is just a fancy term for the landscape planners you see in the photo on the bottom left and you see in the shopping center parking lots around town. But the purpose of the planners is to intercept and treat stormwater to remove any pollutants before the water gets to San Francisco Bay. Now, as mentioned before, the city also has entered into a cooperative partnership with Alameda County Water District to replace and renew the aging water mains within the neighborhood. Now, benefits of the improvements. Of course, improved neighborhood aesthetics. The project will rip out all of the old and worn out roadway pavement and replace it with a brand new and smooth pavement surface. There will also be brand new sidewalk, driveways and curb installed throughout the neighborhood, similar to the photo you see on the bottom right. And those improvements will be designed to drain better and prevent the flooding that commonly occurs after heavy rains, as you see on the photo at the top. Now, the new sidewalks, and intersection improvements will make improve walkability throughout the neighborhood. And all of these improvements together should have a positive long-term effect on the overall property values in the area. Now, I'll turn it over to the city engineering design consultant, Jason Mansfield, to go over the project improvements in a little more detail.
Thanks, Jason. Hi, everybody. I'm not going to go into finite minutia detail because, well, this meeting here is about the assessment district, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions you might have. So the idea is we're adjusting the curb and gutter elevations, mainly raising those intersections along George so that we can get positive drainage flow out. And that's sort of the overall concept. We've taken a closer look. We've advanced the design since the concept level to look at how that impacts each property. So you can see kind of the right side and the upper, actually both sides, sort of some drainage evaluation, making sure that we've got positive drainage out from the properties. And in general, actually, all throughout, we are lowering the sidewalk just a bit, maybe an inch or two here or there, and that ensures that it's going to be lower than your property, right? And the intersections are going to be raised up. That's the only real major difference than lowering that sidewalk. So the intersections will be raised up just at those corners. And then we evaluated, okay, where does that spread of water go into the street, how far that goes into the street for a 100-year storm, and a lot of engineering detail. So we've advanced to that level. You may have seen some contractors out there in the past couple weeks, I think, doing potholing. So they're taking a look at where those utilities are underground so that we can see where we cross and make sure we have enough cover. So that's sort of the level of detail we're getting to the plans, and we're just about there to where we know what we want to do and how to make that concept plan to construction-ready documents. Jason?
Thank you, Jason. One of the important things to note is one of the reasons why the pavement is continuing to deteriorate is because you do have the standing water. So if water gets into the pavement, through the cracks, it just makes it even worse. So it's imperative to not just give you new pavement, but to fix the drainage issue so that it doesn't erode even faster. After you put the new pavement down, you don't want it deteriorating within 2, 3, 4, 5 years again. So in conjunction with replacing the pavement, one of the prime objectives of the project is to fix the drainage and to eliminate the flooding that you see after the heavy rains.
I should also add, actually, that the point of advancing the design to this point and why we're there right now is to have a better understanding of what the project costs are, what all the elements that are involved. So,
have you taken into consideration global warming? I mean, we don't have the flooding like we used to back in our backyards like we did in the old days. I didn't even have to pump out the backyard the past few years.
That is.
A quarter acre. It's not funny.
That's
I'm
true.
a lady.
That's true. We're ACWD will tell you that we're in a severe drought. But when it does rain, we certainly don't want this area to flood again.
I think you missed like 70 years or so.
We are. We will acknowledge that this project is sorely needed, but we do want to advance it, and we need your help though to advance it. That's where we're here to talk to you about tonight. So again, as I mentioned, we are partnering with ACWD to renew and replace the aging water mains within the neighborhood too as part of this project. So I'm going to turn it over to engineering manager Reka Ipagunta, who is actually on Zoom. So if we could get her on. Reka, can you hear us? Hold on. Working on it.
Reka, would you please unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, great. Good evening, everyone. My name is Reka Ipagunta. I'm the engineering manager at Alameda County Water District. Unfortunately, I am unable to join in person today due to safety reasons as I just returned from an international trip. We are really very pleased to collaborate with the City of Newark to replace our aging water pipelines. This partnership between the City of Newark and the district to combine street improvements with water pipeline renewals will provide for the most efficient and cost-effective implementation with the lowest total impact on the community. So I'm very thankful for this partnership with the city. LeTech Law will provide a quick overview of the proposed water pipeline replacement project. And again, this is 100% funded by the district. I'd like to turn it over to LeTech.
Thank you, Reka. So good evening. My name is Lee Tekalau. I'm an engineer at the Alameda County Water District.
Can't understand you with that mask on. A little
Oh,
louder, darling.
all right. Let me see if I can project a little better that way. Okay, so I'll start again. My name is Lee Tekalau. I'm an engineer at the Alameda County Water District. As Jason mentioned and as Reka mentioned, ACWD is partnering with the City of Newark to replace the aging water mains at the same time that the street improvements are being constructed. And I'm here just to give you a little more information on ACWD's work. So the district provides potable water to the cities of Fremont, Newark, and Union City, which encompasses approximately 345,000 customers. And this is through approximately, over 86,000 connections. So those are meters and service lines. The Lindsay Tract main replacement work being planned, the water main replacement work being planned for the Lindsay Tract as part of ACWD's ongoing main renewal program. So ACWD's distribution system is made up of over 900 miles of water mains, and as portions of the system reach the end of their expected life, the district prioritizes segments based on age, material, local conditions, leak maintenance history, consequences of failure, and also the possibilities for efficiencies like this collaboration with the City of Newark. Over the next 10 years, ACWD is planning to invest over $100 million in upgrading water mains in the service area, from pipes in residential streets like in the Lindsay Tract to large diameter transmission mains, which form the backbone of our network. A couple more specifics for you on the Lindsay Tract project. So we expect to replace approximately a mile of pipe. The existing pipes in the ground range between 4 and 8 inches in diameter, were originally installed in the 1950s and 60s. The new mains will be 8-inch, which is our standard, and we'll be replacing all the appurtenances like valves, hydrants, service lines as part of that work. The existing mains will remain in service until the new pipes pass the required pressure and leak tests and sanitation tests, and then final connections are made. And typically, customers can expect half a day or a day out of water service. So you'll be given plenty of notification before that happens. As mentioned, this work is part of ACWD's main renewal program and is funded through the district's service and water charges, and we're very proud to be a part of this collaboration with the City of Newark. So I'll hand back over to Jason.
All right. Thank you, Lee Tech. So now what you all have been wanting to see is numbers, right? Cost. How much does this cost? So the table, this table details the anticipated construction costs and funding. So as shown, the total estimated construction cost for the project is $9.6 million. So of that, $4.3 million is attributable to roadway pavement, drainage, and green infrastructure, the cost of which will be completely funded by the city. So 100% paid for by the city is the $4.3 million. Construction of ACWD's water main replacement is estimated to cost a little over $3 million. But as Lee Tech just indicated, ACWD will also be paying 100% of those costs. The remaining costs are proposed to be funded, for the most part, through the formation of an Area Improvement District, or AID. Now, this has been actually the traditional strategy used to fund construction of frontage improvements for all of the other older neighborhoods in the city. So prior to 1955, which is when City of Newark was incorporated, all of the roads were owned and maintained by the County of Alameda. After the City of Newark was incorporated, the city started constructing traditional curb, gutter, and sidewalk because, as you know, unincorporated cities maintained by county, they don't really have formal curb, gutter, and sidewalk. So after the city incorporated, we went through the process of constructing these formal improvements in the neighborhoods. With the costs, though, paid for in part through the formation of area improvement districts in each of these older neighborhoods. There are currently 34 other area improvement districts throughout this whole entire city of Newark. And Lindsay Tract is actually one of only 2 remaining neighborhoods within the entire city that don't have curb, gutter, and sidewalk. And the other one being Birch Street, which is just 1 block from here, if you know where Birch Street is. So similar to the other 34 other area improvement districts in Newark, property owners would be asked to fund construction of the new curb, gutter, and sidewalk fronting their parcel. Total estimated cost of these improvements, the grand total for the entire project is $1.95 million. As the city's consultant, Francisco and Associates, will go over in just a bit, the city would fund 2% of this cost, with the area improvement district funding the remaining 98%. Hold on just a second. We'll take questions at that. Now, in order to improve the drainage situation, as Jason Mansfield pointed out, to prevent further flooding, the sidewalks will have to be either raised or lowered in front of your house. Therefore, that creates the need to conform, the new sidewalk to your existing driveway, or if you have a walkway, touching the sidewalk to conform that walkway back to the new sidewalk. Now, these improvements made on your property will be constructed by the project, but it's proposed to be completely funded by the area improvement district. Now, in total, 76.4% of the anticipated project costs will be funded by either the city or ACWD, and the remaining 23.6% of the costs would be funded through the area improvement district, which again will be limited to construction of the curb, gutter, and sidewalk in front of your property. So we will be saving questions until there'll be chance for you guys to answer questions. But next, I'll be turning it over to Ed from Francisco and Associates to go over the proposed area improvement district in more detail and provide you with more information.
Thank you, Jason. I'll flip it. All right. Good evening, everybody. I get to do the fun part of the presentation, which is to provide you guys with an overview of the AID assessments and an overview also of the AID formation process. So the AID is an assessment district, and assessment districts are driven by benefit to property. And so with that being said, what we had to do as part of this whole analysis for the Lindsay Tract is do a benefit analysis. And what came of that is it was determined that virtually all of the benefit for the curb, sidewalk, driveway, and walkway proposed improvements are of benefit to the Lindsay Tract property owners, those being within the thick black boundary there that you see on the diagram. The blue, I'll get into what the blue and the yellow parcel designations mean in a second. But so virtually all of the benefit is attributed for curb, sidewalk, driveway, walkway conform is of benefit to the Lindsay Tract. We did account for some incidental benefit. That's the 2% on the prior slide that Jason had mentioned. And that's just to account for incidental benefit to property owners, residents that perhaps, accidentally drive through your neighborhood and that kind of thing. But for the most part, the benefit of these improvements is to the Lindsay Tract property owners. So with that being said, there is what we refer to as a base assessment, because everybody within the boundaries does benefit from these improvements. There's a base assessment that's spread to both the yellow and the blue parcels within the boundaries. And what that resulted into in terms of cost is that $7,789.37 per parcel total principal assessment. And per parcel, yes. And I'll get into payment options, what we're proposing in terms of that. Per house, yes. Per single family home. Yes, sorry, I didn't hear your question. So yes, per single family home per house. So that is what we're referring to as the base assessment for all the parcels within the district. Then from there we get into the enhanced assessments, which the enhanced assessment is essentially an acknowledgement that there's certain parcels within the Lindsay Tract, those being the blue that you see here, that experience additional or enhanced benefits above and beyond. And really what that comes down to is the fact that the majority of the parcels are directly adjacent to new curb, new sidewalk, and also will have new driveway and new walkway conform installed. So that's what the enhanced benefit is, an acknowledgement that not all the properties will have the new, the new curb and the new sidewalk and all of that. So that's the enhanced benefits. And so what that looks like in the form of cost is it's different between the curb and sidewalk and how the driveway and walkway works. And the reason being is, a linear feet of new curb and sidewalk is easily determined fronting each property. So for that reason, the assessment for curb and sidewalk is based on linear feet, and the assessment is calculated as would be calculated as $98.83 per linear foot of new curb and sidewalk adjacent to your property. From there, the enhanced benefit component attributed to driveway and walkway conform area, that is based on square footage, and the reason being, like Jason mentioned, the conform depth varies depending upon the property. For some properties, to meet grade, to improve drainage, as your design engineer mentioned, it was needed to go deeper, further into the property. So that assessment component is based on square footage, and what the rate looks like is $33.35. So just to close the loop or on the diagram, the blue parcels shown there are the ones that experience the enhanced benefits, and the yellow are parcels or single-family homes that fall into just the base category. They do not have the new curb and the sidewalk and all those enhanced improvements that I was referring to down there. Okay, so next, what I want to do is I want to walk through some examples of how that assessment is applied, and and what these numbers look like and all that kind of thing. So this is an example of the most common scenario within the Lindsay tract. It's a single family parcel with the 50-foot frontage in front of their home. That's the most common scenario. And so in the first section there of the slide, you see the parcel characteristics. It's got the 50 linear feet of new curb and sidewalk adjacent to the property. It's got 56 square feet of new driveway conform. This particular parcel doesn't have a walkway, so it's just driveway in this example. So with the 4-foot conform depth, we come up with 56 square feet. And so how that translates into the enhanced assessments is, if you see the new curb and sidewalk section of the slide, the curb and sidewalk component is calculated as the 50 linear feet by the $98.83 per linear foot, and that's what brings us to the $49, $41, and 50 cents for the curb and sidewalk component of the assessment. And then the driveway, no walkway again in this case, the driveway enhanced assessment component is based on the square footage of 56 times the $33.35, and that's what brings us to the $1,867 and 60 cents. So the total principal on this specific example is the sum of the base plus the two enhanced components, and that's what you see down below. It's the $7,789 and 37 cents plus the two enhanced components. And that's what brings it to the total of $14,598 and 47 cents. And again, we'll get into the payment, the financing, all that in a subsequent slide. But that is what that specific example looks like. This is just another example. The difference here from the first is really just the conform depth. This one also has the 50-foot frontage, so that assessment is exactly the same. But because this parcel has a walkway and also a 10-foot conform depth, the square footage you see there is 280 versus the first one was only 56. And so for that reason, if you go down to the bottom and you see the total assessment calculation, you see that the difference is just in the conform assessment component there. And so for this example here, the total assessment is a little over $22,068 and 87 cents. And so I just have one more example here. And then this is example 3. This is the difference between this and the first two is just more frontage. And the fact this one has a walkway and a driveway, but the real difference here is the frontage to the street, right? You see it wraps around the home. So instead of 50 feet, you see 197 feet of frontage, new curb, new sidewalk. You have about the same as the last parcel in terms of driveway and walkway, because the last one also had walkway. So this one is 274 square feet of driveway and walkway conform. If we go down to the total, you see that the major difference from the second example is really the middle, is the curb and sidewalk enhanced component because of the significant increase in frontage to the street. So those are the three, those three examples cover pretty much every scenario within the Lindsay tract. The fourth one that comes to mind that wasn't captured is the one that I mentioned before, that don't have any new improvements abutting the street, and those just pay the base assessment. There's no enhanced components on those parcels. So assessments, assessments and financing. Yeah.
You said towards the end, but we're going way in it. What is the base assessment for? Is it $9,000 base assessment?
The 7,000.
7,000.
Yeah. So the base assessment is benefit from the sidewalk and the curb improvements, which in combination with all the improvements that we're talking about here, it prolongs the longevity of the pavement, improves the drainage,
Are you
all
talking
that kind of stuff.
structure, or because it's really expensive concrete, I mean, for 50 feet of curb to form that, and to pour that, and materials, it almost is like, to sell it first, like
Right.
sell it would be fine, but it's almost, it's a portion of that money going towards, that's high prices for that amount of concrete.
Okay.
I mean, it's double the prices. So I saw the 7,000, and I was like, okay, that's expensive. But then you say the normal average 50, negative, you need labor to come out there, form, curb, and chop, and do that. And hopefully you guys are using union at these prices. But that was basically double the price what concrete would cost with the labor agreement going. So when you look at 33,000, maybe that 7,000 I thought was over the sidewalk, but then you included the sidewalk. It's really, that's
No, so
double the price.
okay, that's a good point.
So is that, yeah, I apologize.
No.
I was wondering if that assessment that you first speak on
Right.
is covering other portions of what you said would be 100% city, or 98% city,
Right.
and the water department.
Right.
Because really those prices are about double. And I'm in the union industry.
Right.
So-
Yeah. So just a brief overview, I guess, of the assessment methodology, and I don't want to get too technical, and I'd be more than happy to address any questions after and whatnot. But I'll just give a brief overview of the methodology, and then maybe we can kind of go from there. So the assessments for the AID are based on that cost estimate that you saw on one of the slides, the 1.9 million or so that you saw there. And so what we did is we took a look at what parcels in the Lindsay tract benefit from those improvements, which generally speaking are all the interior, all the in-tract improvements, right? And so what we did is we segregated out, we said, okay, everybody benefits from those sidewalk, walkability, all the benefits that Jason mentioned in one of the initial slides, all that, right? And so what we did is we weighted out the enhanced benefit with the acknowledgement that if you are directly adjacent to the new improvements, you should pay more than somebody that is not. But everything at the end of the day is based on that $1.9 million cost estimate. And so, to your point, I guess, in speaking in terms of costs, per square foot and all that kind of thing, I don't know, Jason, if you want to, speak on.
May have just clarified. So the assessment, the initial assessment, is for your cul-de-sacs and your landscape where we had the drainage, gone in there to reclaim the water and all that through the landscape areas. Is that correct, or?
So that portion of it is actually being picked up by the city. So anything related to the green infrastructure, the pavement rehabilitation, all that is being picked up. The water main improvements are funded through ACWD. So really what we're asking, or what the city is proposing through the AID, really comes down to curb, sidewalk, and driveway and walkway improvements, and the things ancillary to that.
And I did see that was about 2.4.
Yeah.
That you had those two numbers that you had there. And I was thinking that would be split up between everybody that owns a parcel. And then it seemed like the sidewalks were added again on individual basis per houses.
Yeah, so I guess what we're saying is that if you're adjacent to the new sidewalk and new improvements, there's an additional benefit there. So, your parcel, when it comes to the assessment itself, should be weighted, you should be paying more than somebody that is not. That's really what it comes down to. So I guess, just to put it in simple terms, let's just say somebody pays an assessment of 100, and we're asking people, if you abut a new improvement, they're paying 150. But at the end of the day, everybody's contributing towards their share of the cost. But we're just saying, if you are adjacent to the new improvements, you benefit more, and for that reason, you experience that enhanced benefit, and your assessment should be a little higher. Is really what it comes down to.
Well, it's not a little higher, you're going from
No.
$7,000 to $30,000.
Well,
It's a little higher.
yeah.
It might be a little for you, but it's not for me.
So that last example is the extreme. I mean, obviously, if you're on a corner lot, you have the most frontage to the road. But I would say on average, so two-thirds of the parcels within the Lindsay tract fall under scenario 1 for the most part. Yeah, go ahead. This slide right here? Okay.
The next one is 14,000.
The next one?
Which is the average one that you have. Which
Yeah, this is the most common scenario.
is double.
This is the most common scenario so going back to here, if I go back to here, the yellows, which you can see is in the minority in terms of number, right? Those parcels do not have any new sidewalk, any new curb directly in front of their parcel. So for that reason, the enhanced benefit component does not apply to them. Okay, so the yellows. The blues, which you can see is the vast majority of the parcels within the Lindsay tract, fall under one of these 3 examples. The most common being this one. The 50-foot of frontage, the 4-foot conform. This is the most common example. I would say, Jordan, about 2/3 of the parcels fall under this particular example. Then from there, this example is very similar to the first, except it's got more depth of conform, more new driveway, more new walkway is really the difference here. And then this last one is the extreme, which obviously you guys noticed, but this one is the extreme, and the reason and the least common, I guess, of the 3 examples, because it's a corner lot and has the most frontage and all of that. So.
Do we have to do this?
Well, that's a good question. It's
My
this.
sidewalk's perfect in front of my house, but my neighbor's, his is pretty nice.
Well, that's a good question, and so I think what's happened here, and city staff can elaborate and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the city looked at the project as a whole, right? So in the initial slides, you saw that it's pavement, it's green, it's stormwater improvements, it's water mains, and all that kind of thing. And so the city is contributing in the form that it can. In terms of funding, they're paying 100% of the pavement, all that kind of thing. And like Jason mentioned on a prior slide, what historically has been precedent through all the neighborhoods to date in Newark is that property owners via an assessment district pay for curb, sidewalk, and all that. So what we're doing here really is a couple things, is adhering to precedent. You know, like you mentioned, there's 34, 35 other assessment districts, and we're looking at the Lindsay tract specifically in terms of what do we need to fund and how do we fund it. And so that's why we're here, and this is kind of where we're at.
Guy kind of had wanted to go back to the 34 that he had mentioned.
Mhm.
But at what amount did they have? Was it comparable to what we have and what you're asking us? Now, I've only lived in Newark for 25 years. I tried to do my sidewalks when I needed the license bought it, and I wanted to have that done. I drive through the lake. They've had improvements 3 times since I've been here. Are you saying that each one of those has had the AID? Are they comparable to this level of payment? And that, I mean, I have friends that, I mean, I could ask them, I suppose. I have 4 or 5 properties out there to see what they've been assessed themselves.
No.
I mean, I know Newark is up and coming, we're pushing hard, and like that. I don't mind paying my own fair share. I don't feel like taking an undue burden as I've been ignored for a few years. A couple decades, this many, 50, 60 years. So when you said 34, I wish if you said, we'll hold those questions. Apples to apples, oranges to oranges. I want to make sure that since it's 2022 and we have a beautiful city hall, and it looks great,
Yeah.
that we're not just going to, you know, I own 2 parcels now. So I want to make sure that I don't mind paying my fair share, but I just don't want quick talk. I don't know if we could possibly have this all, you know, everything is spoken, but the number crunch is available also, other than just having some talk and voting on something that we haven't looked thoroughly through.
No, yeah, so to answer your first question, so yes, now 2022 dollars aren't the same as, you know, 1980 something dollars, right, or 1970 something dollars, but the
49.
or 40, yeah. But
Do the math, Darrell.
the amount of the type of improvements and extent of improvements that you're being assessed for is correct. So back in 19 whatever, you know, for the other 34, the improvements that they were assessed for were the concrete, curb, gutter, and sidewalk fronting the homes. They weren't assessed for pavement, just like we're not assessing but so the same items are being assessed.
So the most recent being when? How long ago have you done improvements?
I'm not sure when the last one was. When was it?
So the last area improvement district in a neighborhood was completed in like 2000 or 2001.
It's still 20 years.
It's been about 20 years. So, and if you mentioned like neighborhood, most residential properties in the city had full improvements built at the time the subdivision was constructed. The Lindsay tract is a unique situation, as Jason mentioned, built before the city was incorporated.
Right.
It wasn't built with full curb gutter and sidewalk. The situation is what it is with you know, not very good drainage and these rural curves and sidewalks that are in place. Many of the other situations that we had in Newark were many of the other situations that we had in Newark where we did do area improvement districts were also older properties that had just some basic pavement down the street, no curb and gutter, no sidewalk, just dirt shoulders. So that's in the old town area. So most of our area improvement districts were related to those areas. Okay. So as Jason mentioned, as Ed mentioned, we want to be consistent with what we've done in the past. In fairness to all those folks that pay their share for curb gutter and sidewalk, we want to apply that in this situation. In terms of relative percentage, the overall cost of the project, I think this is actually on the low end. We're generally in the 25 to 35% range in terms of the property owner's contribution to the overall project. And with this, I mean, the numbers we're looking at right now, we're in the 23, 24% range. So we're definitely on the lower end of the property owner's contribution to the overall project.
I want to ask, is the sidewalk going to have those dumb old diving driveway bits? You know, know, you're walking along and all of a sudden, grab your cane, you're gonna go flying. Is it gonna be nice and smooth, or it's gonna have dips?
Oh, no dips, no dips. So
What are you
we wanted to avoid that for that particular reason. So we are gonna maintain the road curb. We're gonna kind of make it a little steeper so that people aren't encouraged to hop their 2 tires on the sidewalk, because that blocks the sidewalk. But the road curb will allow the sidewalk to remain straight, you know, and at the same level throughout the city, so you can ride your skateboard down without doing the dipsy-doos and stuff like that. And, but to get over your curb into your driveway will be similar to what you have now. It's just going to be a little different to kind of discourage people from hopping up on the curb, like you see.
Why did they go to the road curb instead of the straight?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about the original design, but nowadays they do it for that very reason. So there is the sidewalk has to be a certain width, right? It has to be 4 feet wide at least. And because of the American Disabilities Act, we have to have it accessible. So if you don't have a wide sidewalk, you can't have the driveways that slope from back to front anymore. They're all over town, we know that, but they're not technically compliant, because if you go on a wheelchair, you're tipping, right? So in order to make it flat, if you only have a 4-foot sidewalk, the solution is to do a road curb so that you have the best of both worlds. You have a level sidewalk, and then you have a way for people to get up on the sidewalk without slanting the entire thing. Or lowering it and raising it and doing the roller coaster ride as you're going along the sidewalk.
I have a question.
Sure.
I've lived in this tract for 65 years. And when they first built it, everybody had only 1-car driveways. A lot of us spent the extra money, and we now have 2-car driveways. How are you going to assess us? Will we still get our 2-car driveway?
Yes, you will. So
Not just that little thing?
no, so I think the intent is that, you know, we're not going to reconfigure your driveways. It's really, in terms of your driveways, it's the conform area that changes, meaning it's new, right? So if you have 2 driveways, if your conform area is 4 feet or 10 feet, you just get new 4 feet, new 10 feet of depth of conform area for your 2 driveways. Is really what it comes down to.
All one piece.
What's that?
Mine is all one piece.
Yeah, so if it's all, so it would just be designed as all, replaced as all one piece, you know,
Okay,
so.
and what about those that have a lot of landscaping right up against the sidewalk now? I have a whole hedge. People have fences. Are we have to pay to take those down, or are you gonna take that down? Because when we went to that meeting out in the street, the gentleman I spoke to there says, oh no, we're gonna take care of all that. Are they or aren't they?
I might have been that gentleman. We are. So anything that's removed, like if you have a fence, if you have a little brick wall, something like that, it might have to be taken down, but it will be replaced, and that cost will be by the city.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. Not part of your.
They'll take care of it.
We'll take care of it.
Okay.
Can we not do it at all?
Yes.
Where do I sign that?
Yes,
I
but we'll
think-
get to that in a second. But yes, there is, okay, go ahead.
With the new sidewalks and the conforms, how far into the property line will you be going on our lots?
Either, well, that's a,
Jump.
that's a,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
Is there any encroachment? Are we losing any property?
No. So that's
just
a,
for work purposes, you'll be removing,
Yeah.
and then for forms and everything like that, and then replacing.
yeah, and that's actually an interesting thing, because as we explained at the meeting to some of you, your property line is not at the back of walk. Your property line is actually like 20 feet inside. So we're technically going to be working within the public right of way. It just feels like it's your front yard. So we're doing a favor. That the front yards have become your front yards, even though they're not really your front yards. But we are not in the business of coming back and saying this is not your property, get rid of your fence. We're not going to do that. I do want to make that clear. And we are going to go that one step further. If you did build something in the public right of way, we're going to replace it as good neighbors. But so the conform back is either 4 or 10 feet, but 4 or 10 feet is actually still within the public right of way. It's not even in your property. at that point. It just feels like it's in your property because common sense, people think the back of walk, that's my property, but that's actually not the situation out there.
So the edge of the existing sidewalk now, 4 to 10 feet.
Yeah.
So it is on.
Yeah, on your property, but not your real,
driveway.
legal property.
That's what it's called.
Just the driveway.
Or your driveway or a walkway or a
That's
separate,
it,
or a
okay, so
separate
the rest of
walkway
your
from the back
front
of the sidewalk.
would stay the same.
The sidewalk is gonna stay exactly.
Yeah, we're not gonna we're not blowing through the back of the walk, but if you lower your sidewalk, right now your driveway is like this much higher than the sidewalk, so we have to come back and kind of slant it.
So it's only the walkway.
It's only the walkway and the driveway.
It's not your.
It's not your lawn, it's not your lawn, it's not your flower bed, kind of thing. Yeah.
Take it.
Hold on, guys. We do have a question on Zoom, so we're gonna take. Sorry. Hey guys. Okay, we'll get to everyone's question, but we're gonna get to this one question on Zoom. Okay?
Hi, Juliana, would you please go ahead and talk?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking my question. So the question I have is related to enhanced benefits that are being discussed here, and I understand that there's sort of a differentiation depending on the configuration of each driveway and walkway. But I actually have not heard what are some of those quote unquote enhanced benefits that we are treating separately. If you could elaborate on that, in addition to drainage and not having water in the driveways and things like that. So, what are some of those enhanced benefits that you guys are sort of assessing and treating separately?
Sure. No, that's a great question. So really, when we talk about base benefits, it's benefits to the neighborhood as a whole, right? The entire Lindsay tract as a whole. So that's what we're referring to in terms of base benefit. Everybody there benefits from these improvements going in, property values, in the long term are anticipated to increase, all that kind of thing. From there, the enhanced benefits are above and beyond benefits to individual property, right? So it is reasonable to assume, and this isn't, it's not perfect science, but it is reasonable to assume that if you had cracked sidewalk, if you have cracked driveway in front of your property, that now that because you're getting new sidewalk, new curb, the aesthetics of your individual property are now better and more improved than somebody that isn't getting the new sidewalk, the new curb, all that kind of thing. In addition, the things that we looked at are ingress and egress to individual properties. A lot of these properties, as been mentioned tonight, it's not easy getting in and out of individual driveways and whatnot. So individually, these properties, because of the new curb, the new sidewalk, all that, you have better ingress and egress into properties. The other thing that we looked at, there is, state law and all that kind of thing, and the city does have an ordinance on when it comes to sidewalk. It is, in theory, the property owner's responsibility to replace sidewalk in front of property. So if you are now getting new sidewalk in front of your property, it is reasonable to assume that you will not have that expense or incur that expense in the foreseeable future, right? You have 10, 15, or whatever, 20 years of useful life there. So, I guess hopefully I addressed your question, but in general, the response is the base benefits are benefits to the neighborhood as a whole, the entire Lindsay tract, and then above and beyond are the enhanced benefits to the individual property. So that's the
Is Juliana still on?
Yes, she is.
Because that almost, I just went in a circle. It feels like I'm paying for the same benefit twice. Everybody has a sidewalk. We're going to assess $7,997, and then I'm paying for my sidewalk.
well, I guess.
So that's the same thing. I apologize to.
No. You're great questions, and
I feel like it's double dipping.
No,
I have a union contractor paid through the company to do a $8,000 sidewalk, and now I have an additional $5,000. I'm not talking about. I'm talking licensed, bonded, me. His father and his family owned half of KC Poby, which was one of the largest contractors in Alameda County. He just backed out of the business, and he did small things. You know, they had sold their portion. And it was not even, I mean, quite a few years ago. But it's twice the price as it should be with a union contractor. And hopefully we will, it's a large thing, so hopefully we will have union local workforce.
Great questions. I mean, and I completely understand, some of the confusion over assessments and all that. It's complex, but in terms of the union, I think the city is required to pay prevailing wage and all that kind of stuff. So, that's the answer there. In terms of the circling around and double dipping, I guess to put it in simple terms is everybody's asking to pay their pro rata share. What we're saying is if you abut new improvements, your pro rata share is just more. That's really what it comes down to. And so, there's benefit factors and things like that we've assigned and come up with. But just, in as simple terms as I can put it, we're saying, hey, we want all these property owners to pay their share of benefit, right, and it's just if you are adjacent to new improvements, your share is just more, is what we're saying. So it's not double dipping. It's just the weight is different depending upon what parcel you are.
Maybe if we can get full numbers or like that.
Okay, and we do have those for specific properties. So I can tell you.
The 1.9 million, 1.9, right? Forget what it is. 1.9, $2 million, I should say. It's not only and then Jason can confirm this. It's the demo. It's the sort of the removal of the sidewalk, removal of the curb and gutter, excavation, and then laying of all the curb, gutter, and sidewalk. So I understand what you're saying.
The full force of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the
No,
full of the job.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, embedded in that 1.9 is the demo and the removal of that. It's not just the new. So.
And adjustment to grade too in many cases, right? It's not strictly removal or replacement in single cases.
It's excavating out a little bit further and then laying a solid base, so you gotta actually excavate further than just that concrete sidewalk. And I think, I'm hearing a different perspective too. So it's not like somebody's paying extra, it's more that there's this overall cost of the project. A portion of that is being distributed amongst everybody for that base benefit. And then the rest that's remaining is distributed according to what your actual benefit is for that coverage. So it's not like somebody's paying more than that total cost of what everything is costing them to cost. It's just what you said was like some people are benefiting more, right? So it seems like you're paying more than somebody else, but it's really not extra. It's not like you're paying this and extra, even though that's how the calculation is from your perspective. I think from the homeowner's perspective, it's like, well, wait a second. No, it's the overall cost, and it's just that base is a portion of that that's being distributed over to everybody.
Right.
And the remainder is distributed according to your benefit. I think it's correct, right?
Yeah, thank you.
12 years ago, I came to the city a couple times for meetings because they were talking about sorting. They were going to remove the old houses and do apartments on top and stores on the bottom and all that crap. And I asked, what about our streets? And I was told, we don't have money for that, and we cannot ask the homeowners to pay for it because there's already sidewalks there. If there was no sidewalks, then we'll ask the property owners to pay for it, part of it. But because already exists sidewalks, we're not gonna ask for it. We can't do that. And then suddenly, you guys are asking for us to pay. What happens to that?
I think the more correct answer is we can't ask for that because we asked them to pay for it already. So for those projects in those neighborhoods where we already have an assessment district, where we already asked them to pay for their sidewalks, we can't go back and ask them to pay for improvements again. Like if we did this assessment district and then 15 years from now something happened and all the sidewalks went to pot, we can't go back and ask you to pay for it again because you already paid for it once. So that's the more correct, I think, answer to what you heard. Is that, you have anything to add to that, sorry?
No, I think that's right, yeah. Again, Lindsay Tract is a unique situation, again, constructed before the city was incorporated.
That's right. And the members who lived there incorporated it back in the sixties.
Absolutely.
Or it wouldn't be part of, wouldn't be part of training.
The city standards that we have now, or even had back in the sixties when the city was incorporated, didn't apply back then. We have unique conditions for your neighborhood that we're trying to resolve. To your question, ma'am, if we can choose not to do the project, if we go down that path, that means that these drainage issues that exist, we won't be able to resolve those. We might be able to repay things and cover things up. It might look good for a while, but as Jason mentioned earlier, the roadway's going to deteriorate much more quickly, and we'll be back in the same boat. It's not a good investment.
The roadway deteriorated because when they fixed it, it was during the water shortage, and we couldn't hose down the streets, so they just laid it right over the dirt. I was there.
The construction methods back, original construction, again, with the county, we don't have a good idea of that.
Well, you weren't born in yet.
Okay.
You weren't born yet.
Do we have any other Zoom questions?
Oh, yeah, we have one.
Okay.
Juliana is back, so let's hear from her.
Okay, Juliana.
So, hi, sorry. Thanks for taking the second question. Yeah, just wanted to, again, just a point of clarity. So the 1.9 million is what gets spread so-called evenly across all the parcels, right? And then 421,000 is this enhanced benefits that is then varies depending on, again, from what I'm gathering, things like the size of your driveway, what is the grade of your driveway, how much back, how much of a conform area you end up needing to work with, and things like that. Is my understanding correct?
Almost. So the 400 and or so thousand, 420,000 or so, that's a driveway and walkway conform. That is paid 100% or proposed to be paid 100% through the assessment district based on your square footage of area. So if you have two driveways, you have a walkway, a driveway, it's based on square footage. Yeah, thank you, Jason. So the 421,844 that you see in this table, that's intended to be paid 100% through the area improvement district, pro rata share by square footage of driveway and walkway for each of the properties. The 1.9 million, almost 2 million, is for curb and sidewalks only. This is the one where if you have new curb and sidewalk in front of your property, your weighted share is just more. But the 1.9 million, the 7,000, the base 7,789 cover pays for a portion of that 1.945 million, if that makes sense. So it's two enhanced components. It's the curb and sidewalk, which is based on linear foot of new curb and sidewalk, if you have it. And then there's also the base component of that everybody pays. The driveway and walkway conform, the 421,000 there, that is paid by property owners 100% through the AID based on square footage of new driveway and walkway conform. And so that differs depending upon what property and how much square footage of that you have. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's clear. Can I just ask on the properties that were yellow on your diagram, okay, what is the reason why they're not getting new sidewalk?
The reason they're not getting new sidewalk? I think maybe Jason can.
Or why they're only subject to the base benefit? What are they not getting, I guess, as they're compared to the rest of us?
So I can speak to why they're not paying the enhanced benefit, but maybe Jason Mansfield or Jason Mike can speak to why they're not getting some of these improvements. So the reason they're not paying the enhance is because those properties are not proposed to have any new curb or sidewalk or driveway or walkway installed. So those properties will, you know, whatever's there in front of their property will stay, meaning the curb, sidewalk that is there is what will remain after this project is done. As to why, I think...
The properties at the northern end of Mulberry and Olive already have...
Yeah, go ahead.
So the properties at the northern end of Olive and Mulberry, those already have rolled curb, gutter, and sidewalk that are in decent condition. They have good drainage, so we didn't feel that they needed to be replaced. The ones at the southern end, the two there, were already in a previous assessment district. They've already got vertical curb and gutter and sidewalk, and so we're not going to be replacing those. That's the simple answer.
So my question was,
Yeah.
the one in the yellow
Yeah.
is already in an AID with possibly a 30-year bond, and that they were assessed at rates, time comparable, as we are, the 30 or 20 houses.
The ones in the yellow, I believe, were not, have not been in an AID, and they're not. What we're saying is that they're what's that?
But they were improved recently.
I don't think they've been improved
The
recently.
two down at the southern end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the two down at the southern end.
Over
with
here?
a vertical curb and gutter
Oh,
and
got it.
sidewalk. The other ones, no.
The other ones are not in AID.
Correct.
And they did not have improvements.
Not recently.
Those improvements are either were with the original neighborhood or, I'm not sure when they were constructed, but.
I believe they're all on the street. They're the same houses that I have.
Yeah, so they have curb, gutter, and for some reason, some houses have a road curb, some have the asphalt curb, but I'm not sure exactly why. That was with the original, I assume original construction of the project. What Jason was saying is that the curb gutter, the curb and road curb is in good condition there, and it most importantly drains well. If it was flat, you know, or actually drains the wrong way, we would have to rip it out and replace it.
I come from Menlo Park around the city. The drainage here is tenfold better than I've ever had. I mean, we have puddles that were 18 inches deep.
Oh, I believe you. But you know, we do notice that there are ponding issues here. The slope of the concrete gutter is just so flat that any drainage will any imperfections, right? You know, your construction, any imperfections in a really flat slope will create a low spot, and then it will end up ponding there. So when we looked at the curb, the existing curb out there, if that was the case, we would have to improve it to a little steeper slope. Now we're just saying that the ones in yellow, they were for one reason or the other, I'm not sure why, but they were constructed with a better positive slope than the rest of the neighborhood. And they also so happen to get concrete curb for some unknown reason why other people didn't. You just had asphalt, you know, up to your sidewalk.
One question, property taxes. I believe the city gets about 18%, Alameda County, you know, that. What does that cover? I mean, we have excellent police, I understand that and all that, but I always thought that part of my property taxes covers road work and such. And I've always been kind of disappointed because I have been here 25 years and we haven't even had a stretch of oil put on it, you know, just as preventative. And we've asked, you know, a couple of decades ago, I was much more trying to come down and ask for, you know, speed bumps and road improvements, and we were always just kind of pushed away. But what benefit from the city do I get from my property tax besides wonderful police, you know, doing that?
The property tax, well, the roadway projects are paid primarily by gas tax. So the gas tax you pay at the pump, and every time you register your car, those monies traditionally are being used for roadway projects. The revenue we generate from property taxes goes towards what you said, funding the police, our park system, and other improvements outside of the roadway. We really try to limit money that is collected from transportation uses like gasoline taxes, like vehicle registration, for repair of the roads. Anything to add? We'll finish answering.
Go to the general fund to serve all functions. Our capital improvement plan is funded. So every project that we do in the street, within the public right of way, with very few exceptions, all of the dollars are derived from state gas taxes or local transportation sales tax, and that's what we're proposing to use for these projects for the city.
Sorry.
I know that all of the taxes go to the county, and we're creating the assessment district. But is it possible for the county to make all the money that we pay for taxes come back into our neighborhood? If we've been there for so long and haven't had improvement for the tax money that we pay. So the tax money goes to other areas of the county, and how much is coming back to the homeowner? So I know you put these improvements in there. Property taxes going to go up, in addition to the cost that you charge us. But we're not giving away with this to the easy.
So, well, I'm not sure, but I know the formula, the amount of.
Is it possible for the county to allocate hold assessment, this assessment, to hold the money that we pay in taxes for about 5 years and do the improvement? Because we haven't had no improvement ever since I've been there since 1980.
So there's two portions of your tax bill. If you look at your tax bill, there's what they call the ad valorem portion of the tax bill, which is for the most part around 1%. If there's some voter approved, bonds like school bonds and things like that, you'll see it exceed the 1%. But generally speaking, it's 1%. That 1%, depending upon what part of the city you're in, what city you're in, it's based on what they call tax rate area. That tax rate area is what divvies up the 1%. So you'll see things like the one portion of it is to the city, a portion of it is to a school district, a portion of it is to X, Y, and Z. So that 1% gets divvied up, to all those agencies based on agreements and prior negotiations and things like that. Then, so I don't think there's anything that can be done about that, unfortunately, or as of right now. Then if you go over to the other side of your tax bill, you'll see the special taxes and assessment side of the bill. That portion of the tax bill, generally speaking, are related to financing districts, special financing districts, which is what this would fall under. So if you go in those line items, there is some form of benefit to your property. Granted, some of them are taxes, right? So there is no, let's call it benefit nexus or things like that. It may be like a school measure, those kinds of things. But for the most part, there is some sort of correlation to your property on the special taxes and assessment side of the tax bill. And so, those line items typically are voter approved, whether it be property owner or registered voter approved, whether it was recent or done way back when. But, hopefully that answers your question. That's generally how the tax bills are kind of allocated and apportioned in terms of where the funding goes and where the money goes and things like that. So, does that answer your question?
And I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
The problem is that I was looking at the idea that the county collects all the money.
They do. They're the collector, yes. Yeah.
There was some way that, most of us going to have to incur another debt, for this improvement. And we're going to have to pay the property going up and the taxes going to increase. If you get improvement like this, the property going to be appraised by the assessor office, so it's going to go up in value, so you're going to pay no taxes. So you got a new assessment value, you got an increase in property tax. So I don't know what.
Well, the ad valorem is based on property, on the value of your home when you purchased it, and it can only go up by 2% a year. So it doesn't. The ad valorem isn't adjusted unless you sell your home, and then it's adjusted at that purchase price.
Well, they every year they go 2%.
2%, right?
They maximum everything starts.
2%.
It's always at 2%. So you're saying that you don't get no increase in taxes. You've been taxed 2% every year since the job began passed. If you stayed in your house and you didn't move.
And with these improvements, are you gonna reassess
like when you build a second story or something, they come in and reassess, right? I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, that does.
That we're all gonna benefit from, values are gonna shoot up and everything like that, but is that gonna reassess?
No, it's not like Jason was saying. It's not like if you put in a pool or you add a second floor or you put in an ADU. It's not like that. So, you know, in terms of the ad valorem side of your bill, you can expect that to be what it is.
It's gonna go up, you know, that's the way it's been. If
Yeah.
you look at the statistics, it goes up 2% a year. Even though they say it's not supposed,
Mhm.
it's the micro money can go to 2%. But they've been doing 2% max ever since the dollar began passed. So people who lived in the house when it came out, they still increased their tax, unless you get on something like the government deal, like the GI bill, you get a discount there. But
Right.
if you're a regular homeowner there, your taxes are gone up 2% every year.
Yes, I mean, you're correct.
So,
Yeah.
and then we gotta pay the assessment tax on
Mm.
that too. So I don't know whether it's a win-win-win.
Unfortunately, you're correct. I mean, the ad valorem goes up 2%, and then you know, depending upon what property, what neighborhood, there's assessment districts and additional, you know, line items that you see on there. So, yeah. So, don't want to get into the history of why that is, but that is how it works.
I'm saying, you know, like, I'm just saying that we gonna pay more taxes. You know,
Yeah.
we're gonna pay more taxes, property value goes up. The assessors gonna come out and increase the property taxes. And you don't have some type of way of property taxes stable, like Lindsay, you're a veteran, disabled veteran. Your taxes, they got a cap on that. So if you're just a regular homeowner on the property, your taxes gonna go up. That's what it is, the 2%.
2%.
Every year.
Yeah, the good news is that, because I think you said you bought your property in 1980 or so? Yeah, so your 2% is based on that 1980 purchase price, right? So if someone were to buy your home today, it resets, that 2%, that 1%, yeah. So if that is, make you feel a little better, that would,
What's really happening is it's not like, I'm gonna, you know, improvement's gonna be good.
yeah,
You know, I work in the improvements, I've been there since 1980, and nothing's really done.
right.
So what I'm trying to say, the property value is gonna go up.
Mm.
You know, but and the value is gonna go up around other neighborhoods, so the property will improve.
Mhm.
But, people are gonna pay more taxes.
That 2% increase on the ad valorem should not change as a result of this project.
Yeah.
That side of your tax bill doesn't change.
It's not gonna
Now, we
change.
have-
It's not going to
That
change
one-
because of the project.
There's 2%.
Now, it might go up 2%, but that's because the county
Oh,
decides
Yeah.
to do it.
Whether we did the project or not, the 2% is gonna be there.
Okay.
Right.
It's not gonna change.
It's not going away. Yeah. Okay, do we have any more questions on?
Yuliana.
Okay.
Do you know Yuliana?
Yes.
Okay, well, she's back.
Again, hi. Sorry, should have been there in person to make this easier, but thank you again for taking the call. I have a question about the financing summary and some of the comments you had on the slide about the city bond issues and all of that. Can you kind of give a little more what this means?
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah, we haven't done this slide yet, so that's a perfect segue. To your question earlier, when you asked, do we have a choice and do we have to do this? This is the slide for you, because this is an assessment district, and we can't proceed, we can't form it without property owner approval, essentially. Okay.
My problem is, I need a new driveway, and I've been holding out, waiting for you guys to, get off the pot.
Okay. Well, here we are.
Before someone falls down and shoots me,
Okay.
because it looks like stair steps.
Okay. Well, hopefully we get this thing through and.
Put it on the other side.
Okay, so I'll just walk through the assessments and financing summary. So just a couple, reiterative points here. The proposed assessments, the principal, as you guys saw, it'll vary based on linear feet of new curb, sidewalk, and based on square footage of new driveway and walkway conform. Like I just mentioned, in order for this thing to move forward, the assessment district to move forward, we need property owner approval. And so what will happen is a notice and validating process and that kind of thing, and I'll go through that on the last slide. Assuming it does pass, assuming we do have a successful Prop 218, Proposition 218 is the one that governs this process, by the way. Assuming it passes and it's successful, property owners will have the option to pay off the principal, the entire assessment amount up front. And the benefit of that is you avoid any added financing administration costs that come as a result of financing it over time, right? So for property owners and for the remaining balance that is not paid up front, the city will have to issue bonds to finance the remaining principal. Those bonds will have a 30-year maturity date. And so what that means is they'll be placed on the property tax roll or on property tax bills for every year for 30 years. You'll see the line item, assuming you own the home for 30 years, you'll see the line item on your tax bill for 30 years. With that being said, at any point in time after bonds are issued and after assessments are placed on tax bills, whether it be year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 10, 20, any time before the 30-year maturity date, any property owner will have the ability to call the city and say, hey, I want to pay off my remaining principal amount. And then, you save, financing costs from that point forward, right? You save the interest and all that kind of thing. So as a last point, the city is definitely acknowledges that, the costs here that we're talking tonight are considerable. And there is going to be a deferred payment program available for qualified low-income households. The criteria of that, I believe, is not final yet, and so the city will be disseminating that information as it becomes available. But it will be available ahead of you getting your notice and ballot, so you're well informed and can make a decision when you get your ballot.
Bonds.
Yeah.
When you issue bonds and all like that, do you have a formula for the financing?
A formula?
A formula that's like the city uses, like a straight formula for each thing, or are they just right here? So
No. So generally, how
then you can answer everything. Prior to this will be Proposition 208, you said?
218.
218.
Yeah.
Would you identify and send out to the individuals of each property what their exact assessment would be so they can make their own decision? Is that part of that issue other than?
So, so answer your first question about the formula and the bonds and all that. So the way that works is every parcel is assigned a principal assessment amount. That principal assessment amount is essentially that calculation slide that I went through, the base assessment, the enhanced assessment. That is every parcel's principal assessment amount. From there, the way the bonding works, it's kind of like a mortgage, right? Like if you take out a mortgage on a house. So you'll have, there'll be interest rates, and I think that what we're approximating right now is a little over 5, somewhere in that range. So there's interest, and there's also annual administration costs to administer the bonds, levy the assessments, all that kind of thing. So in simple terms, the formula is basically principal, interest, administration. That's how the
And I was kind of worried about, so there would be a premium on the bond, interest-wise.
Yeah.
And hopefully, the formula is asked, but the administration costs wouldn't be obscene, and that it would be fully disclosed prior to us being able to,
Yes, absolutely. And so, to your point, and as I'll go over in the last slide, part of the process is preparing an engineer's report. The engineer's report will have the cost estimate of the project, what's proposed to be paid through the assessment, how the assessment is derived, all that kind of thing. So, yeah.
Say if we wanted to sell a property, is that transferable to the next person, or is it at, when we
Yes.
get the title, I would have to fully pay that off?
No. So what it is it's a lien on property, so it stays with the property, not the property owner. So if you sell the property, if you're selling year 20, the new property owner takes over, has to pay 10 years worth of assessment.
It's going to be disclosed.
Yeah, it's disclosed. Yeah. So it's an assessment on property, not on the property owner. Okay. Hopefully that answers the property owner on Zoom. I think we're good there. Okay. All right, last slide, the AID formation process. Just main bullet points here. The first step is preparation of an engineer's report. That's a requirement when it comes to assessment districts. And so embedded in that engineer's report is cost estimates, assessment methodology, all the details behind why we're assessing, what we're assessing to all the property owners within the district. Then from there, city staff will go to council and recommend that a resolution of intention, they call it, to form the district be adopted. And also at that same council meeting, the council will preliminarily approve the engineer's report and the assessment rates. It's not final, but preliminarily approve it. Right after that resolution of intention council meeting, we will mail out notices and ballots to all the affected property owners, those being all the blue and yellow parcels that you saw in that one slide. And those notices and ballots must be mailed a minimum of 45 days prior to the public hearing, which is the second council action. So we mail out the notices and ballots. The notice and ballot will have, the purpose of the assessment, the amount of the assessment, the term. So it'll state, 30 years, all that kind of thing. And then everybody will have a ballot. The ballot will have your specific proposed assessment on there. And then, you complete it, yes, no, sign it, send it back in. And that's how the ballot process works. But yeah.
In Newark, I think, besides the older property owners, there's a large amount of renters.
Right.
How are you going to assure that it isn't a renter that is grabbing that? Because many people that own the properties, 4 properties on my street are owned by non-residents.
That's a really good question.
Don't want to.
Yeah, that's a
sign it, check it
yeah.
off.
No, that's a great question. That's a really good question. So
Is that a simple majority?
yeah,
How can we verify that it's actually the owners themselves?
that's a great question. So what Prop 218 requires is that notices and ballots be mailed to the mailing address on record with the county for property owners. For property owners. So in the scenarios that you're pointing out, what it should be the case and is most likely the case is that when we go to prepare the mailing database for the notices and ballots, the mailing address will be different than the property address. So if the property owner lives in Newark, New Jersey, he should get the notice and ballot, not the tenant.
And it would just be a simple majority, 51%?
No, it is not a simple majority. Well, it is. It is and it isn't. It's a majority weighted by proposed assessment. Meaning, if your proposed assessment is 10,000 and hers is 8, your ballot is weighted more than hers. So
we're going to get the bill telling us exactly how much it is before we have to vote. I don't
you
know
are. You are. Yes.
I want to know up front.
Yes. So we actually have some handouts tonight that we can give to property owners upon request, and also the notice ballot, the engineer's report, all those documents have the assessment specific to your property, so you will know exactly what you're submitting your ballot on and how much and what to expect and all that kind of thing. So yes.
So when do you estimate if this thing goes through? When do you estimate that construction going to start?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of it is predicated on the results of this. If I just to wrap this up, just in terms of the assessment district formation process. Prepare the engineer's report. We go to council the first time. Assuming council approves that, we mail the notices and ballots a minimum of 45 days prior to the public hearing. Then council conducts the public hearing. That night, the public hearing night, is the deadline to submit a ballot. If you don't submit a ballot by the close of the public input portion that evening of the public hearing, ballots submitted after that do not count. And if you don't submit a ballot, you don't count. So it's majority approval based on return ballots. If you don't submit a ballot, it's a it's a neutral situation there. At that public hearing council meeting, what will happen is they'll conduct a public hearing, close the public hearing. City council will direct staff to tabulate the ballots. That very same evening, we'll tabulate the ballots, confirm if the process was successful or not, meaning we have majority yes approval weighted by proposed assessment. Assuming it's a yes, that night City Council can approve the district, adopt the resolution of formation, authorizing the city to move forward with everything. And then after that is when some of the points that I mentioned on the prior slide can happen, where property owners can elect to pay off their principal amount up front during what's called the cash period. Or if you elect not to do that, then that's when the city issues bonds, and the levies will begin to appear beginning fiscal year 23-24. So this process here takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending upon council meetings, public outreach that's required, that kind of thing. But it's typically a 3 to 6 month process. And so if this is successful, I'm assuming in terms of construction and your question on construction timeline, I think maybe Jason, you.
Yeah, if assuming that I'll finish the answer to this. So assuming that assessment district gets done by the end of the calendar year, we would be able to go out to construction in the next construction season, which is like the spring, summer of 2023. So a little less than a year from now.
What's the estimated project completion?
The duration of construction?
Duration.
What's the duration of construction?
Gosh, I think we were looking at about a year because of all the water line work, underground utility work that needs to happen. It's quite some time too, so.
Now, if I may.
Yeah.
Is it all or nothing? If the homeowners think that sidewalks are too expensive, is it an all or nothing? If the water department has that, is there going to be a portion that you're going to have to go through just for public safety and sanitation and road work? So if we vote no, is there still public works drainage that is still going to be?
That's a good question. What I will use is Birch Street as an example. So Birch Street went through this exact process twice. They voted it down each time. Now, when we went out to do the public workshop for you back in September 21, we reached out to Birch Street again for the third time. At that meeting, we had a very strong opposition to the assessment district. So at that time, when staff took that information back, we evaluated it, and the management decision was to put the project on hold indefinitely again, the third time. So as you can see, there's never been improvements out there. Every time, we've tried 3 times to go out there, and each time they voted it down. So, based on that, we would have to go back and assess the situation again if there's no support.
So would the roadways, we don't know, if the roadways and the drainage would happen without the curb and the driveway improvements? It's all or nothing?
Yeah, it's
Maybe
basic.
give us a little teaser, just take care of it.
You say maybe you can take care of my house. Everybody. You could be the model for the after picture.
2020.
Oil springs. I've seen oil springs in the winter. We've never had a single thing, right? We have potholes that are 3 inches deep. There's gotta be at least 8 or 10 on my small stretch that I go in itself.
We have ongoing pavement.
And I understand that you might have,
maintenance projects all over the
I
city.
see them right past us.
We have stopped on occasion, I know. But it has been just basic patch paving, and a few years ago we did go through and replace a lot of the rolled curb, right, with new asphalt concrete rolled curb. It's all a Band-Aid because the core of the issue, core of the problem with the street is the drainage problem. We can't correct the drainage problem without correcting all the curb and sidewalk issues.
As we in the city of Newark, have we been directed by any powers above us that we need to correct that drainage? By the county or by the state, that we need to actually take care of that?
No, but engineering wise, it would be the right thing to do. Otherwise, standing water, once you get one crack in that road, the water finds a crack, goes into the sub base, turns it to muck. That's when the pavement starts flexing and then cracking. So that's really the problem. So water is Sorry, ACWD, but water is our enemy. Water is pavement's enemy. And it really can do a number of things. So is time.
Yeah.
So is time, but water too. So that's the situation. We're not being mandated to fix the drainage, but good engineering judgment would say, hey, you got to fix the root, the core problem. Oh yeah, that's a good. Why don't you come up here so they can, yeah. And then the mic will pick you up for those online. Lead Tech, there is, to answer your question on if there's a project that would go through, then Lead Tech will explain the water main question.
Yeah, so just on the all or nothing kind of question, if it obviously the district is is very keen to see the project go through as a whole because there are efficiencies in terms of rebuilding the street and setting up the construction site. So that's primarily why we're going into kind of a partnership. But at the same time, the district is aware that these assets are aging and they need replacement. So as part of the work so far, we progressed through the design. So we'll have the water main design pretty much in hand, and the plan would be, we don't necessarily know when that would be scheduled, but it's part of our capital improvement. So if in the, obviously the less preferred route of not having it done in partnership with the city, then the district has that design to progress in its, whenever we are able to allocate the funds that we would need. So it wouldn't be completely all or nothing. The district would plan to do that work in the near term, but it wouldn't go ahead in the next year or so.
Which would be the water main,
Yeah.
The water main, yeah.
And
which is 100%.
yeah.
I mean, in true honesty, I'm just saying if we waited you out, you'd have to do a portion or the major portion of the work.
Yeah. So finishing up Lead Tech stuff. So as an example, Birch Street, again, like I said, voted it down third time. City's project is on hold indefinitely again. However, ACWD is going to move ahead with the water main on Birch Street. So it could, if it happens here, that would be one thing that would move forward.
I have an interesting question, and I asked the neighbors who lived on George Street. If you drive down the street, there's these great big patches. They're about this wide and this wide, and it's the whole length, yes. And when the mail truck, she goes bump, bitty bump, and I said, oh, can't be. So I went in my Jeep and I was bumping just as bad for 2 blocks. What were those? What happened there? And there's a whole row of them. I know not baby caskets. It's these great big holes in the middle of, and they're all patched. And the mail lady, she hates to drive. She got hit in the head on the ceiling of the truck. What was that? No, they're not. They're all this, and they're perfect squares down the middle of George Street. What happened? Was that the sewer or the water?
I think.
I'll come back here. It's
I
a bit
mean,
hard to hear.
it's real, and I asked the people who live there, and they didn't know.
Yeah, I believe there was some work. So this is.
Talk louder.
Oh, I'll see if I can
There you go.
direct my voice this way. Okay. So on that end of George Street, I understand that ACWD did do some service line reconstruction on those. So those, yeah, they're pretty geometrical square patches where they would have dug down to the main and then taken the old service line out and installed a new one. So I believe that was, so that's one of the aspects of, the water mains in the area have a history of leaks and maintenance issues. So that's kind of one of the drivers for us to do the work. So yes, so that our water main work doesn't end up having all of these patches everywhere. That's one of the advantages of doing the work at the same time as the street being constructed. Yeah, no.
And I think that might be a testament. So I'm sure when ACWD repatched it, they didn't do it like this.
It is.
Well, now it is. But I'd say when you patch something like that, and then there'll be settlement, especially if the water gets through the joints. There's all, when you see the square, the edge of the square is a joint. So if it separates even what, the water will find a way. Water always finds a way in the tract, right? So if it gets down, then that will cause the subgrade underneath to get soft, and that's what starts doing this. So it's an example of what would happen if, hey, we went back and we patched it, made it look good, then it will start deteriorating like that fast, very quickly, if we don't stop
What did you get a steamroller out there?
and iron it out.
All
But
right.
yes, I'm sorry, I promised to take a question.
And sorry if you addressed this earlier, but how does the federal infrastructure act that was just passed recently, how can that, or does it not apply to this at all? Like, can you apply for aid at the federal level to take care of this?
We're applying for federal money. It's being used for certain projects. Federal money is kind of being earmarked for the major thoroughfares on the national highway system, which is your Thorntons, your Maury's, your Stevensons, things like that. That money is really not earmarked for the local streets, they call them. But it is, in a sense, allowing us to use that money for other projects and then allowing us to use the money that we would have used on Thornton for the local streets. So the city's portion, which you can see that the PowerPoint will be posted. So, and this meeting is actually being recorded, as you heard at the beginning. So, and that will be posted online too, and it's available on YouTube, actually, right? So I think you can see it on YouTube after you go home, actually. It allows that money that would have been used otherwise, local money for Thornton, to be used for local streets. So in a way, the infrastructure bill is helping out, but not directly.
There's sort of a part 2 and 3 to this. I mean, is there a proposition that, you know, we can pull together that also will pull money from some of the businesses within the area, especially if you've got Costco coming in soon. You've got a lot of money from industry in Newark too that can also be offset to better the infrastructure for the town in general.
That would be a separate bill, but I know Costco will result in a lot more sales tax for the city. As you know, there's a lot I spend a lot of money at Costco, that's for sure. So the sales tax revenue generated from Costco, from the business, will go into the general fund, again, fund other programs. But like you said earlier, that money typically goes for the general fund for police, other aspects of the city. We typically try to reserve federal infrastructure money or gas tax, the money that you pay at the pump, to repair roads.
So part 3 of the question, the last bit, for neighborhoods like the lakeside area, how is that handled today by Newark? You know, like there's the lake infrastructure itself and the bridge that goes into that neighborhood. Is that a local, parcel tax that applies to those owners, or do the residents of Newark absorb the cost of that sort of infrastructure maintenance?
When the lake was, are they an AID?
No, there's no separate AID. The original improvements out there, if you're referring like the Lake Bridge and streets on the island, as an example, all those improvements were completed at the time that subdivision was built and incorporated into the cost, the purchase price for those original construction. Ongoing maintenance for the public streets in all of Newark, whether it's like your area or Old Town or your neighborhood, all falls under the same category for local street road maintenance. That's what we typically use gas tax funding.
But again, it's the gas tax. So your property tax is not going towards maintaining lake road streets. It's the taxes you pay at the pump, or anytime you register your vehicle. Kind of that money we receive from that goes into one big pot and then is distributed.
But the lake has had repairs on the road prior to 2000.
They get the roads paved all the time.
We joke about it, but the mayor is over there. I think he does. The work on our city is but I've never had the ripple come to us at all.
So
it really seems.
It's a good question. It's a fair question. There has been investment all over Newark and on the streets and roads to either do a full pavement overlay, do some
That's true. Typically, historically, the city spends a total of like 1.5 to $2 million on pavement maintenance throughout the entire city a year. 1.5 to 2 million. We're committing to spend maybe 2 to 3 times more than our annual pavement maintenance budget on Lindsay Tract.
So I've been here almost 30 years, so 1.5 times 30, or 25.
I hear you.
Years. So that doesn't really.
No, I hear you.
You said you neglect me, you give me a big deal.
Right.
So I'm still starved after that big deal.
Right. I hear you. But if the project goes through, you'll have a brand new street. It's not even going to be brand new pavement. It's basically going to be a brand new street with brand new sidewalk. And if it goes through. He raised his hand first.
Other than another lower income area like Birch, did you provide earlier examples of other assessments that have happened maybe in more affluent neighborhoods where, they've been charged for basic safety improvements?
Yeah, as we mentioned before, so there's 34 other assessment districts in the city. Basically every older neighborhood except 2 here in Birch. So, and as our Public Works Director noted, the percentage of cost of the project, this is about 25%, was traditionally assessed to each of those neighborhoods. Now, the last assessment was in 2000? 2000, 20 years ago, and it's been assessed before, so the dollars is going to be less, but proportionally it's about the same.
Or I think actually lower. I think we were more in the 35% range on most of those prior projects. Again, with the water line project, the big component of it, so it's our number right now is 23.
And that's nice.
23.6.
Yeah, and that's nice that you say that. I mean, that's kind of why I had asked that before. I don't mind paying my own share, but I don't want to be unduly burdened. And if you say that this 23% is actually lower than the previous 34 AIDs that are all at least 20 years plus old, it would be nice to see, but it would probably sway a lot of us. Not.
We can certainly dig up those numbers and share those.
A little off this particular project, but what about the power poles that are going down the street? Will any of this construction, any
Underground?
plans to do underground?
No, that's
At this point, it'd be a great time to do
it would. The city certainly doesn't have money for that, so unfortunately, no. That is, but it has to be along like a major. That's a good question. It's called Rule 20. Rule 20. There are certain requirements as to which streets qualify for the Rule 20.
Are we upset with that if you stay at your home or something like that? You have to pay money for that Rule 20?
No.
For that area? I know some streets don't, they have to pay that.
Rule 20. That's a deferred.
Small portion of everybody's power electric goes towards that.
Rule 20 money is taken from your PG&E bill. So PG&E charges you for your electricity every month. A part of that bill gets put into a Rule 20 pot that then gets distributed to the cities.
Now, since you're doing a major improvement like that, seems like that would apply for underground in the PG&E line.
Right.
That would apply.
Yeah, that's a major extent. I mean, that would increase this project cost by 40 or 50%.
They collect the money from you, like the tax bill, they just collect the money, but they're not spending it in the neighborhood. They collect it from the utility.
Yeah, typically that funding does get spent where it can provide the most benefit for the city as a whole, so that's typically on our arterial streets where everybody uses the arterial streets, so traditionally that's where those funds have been expended. It'd be, in all honesty, a very long time for any city with a lot of overhead utilities able to get to local streets.
Yes, sir.
What about the utilities, the parallel road that run inside of the sidewalk, under the lots and such. Those will be relocated out past the sidewalk, and they will stay where they are.
They're gonna stay where they are, like we said, they're actually within public right of way.
Yeah, the pipes are so old, they're,
And they're, well, the water main is gonna be replaced, that's one thing.
I'm talking natural gas.
No, so PG&E and, won't be replacing their facilities as part of
So
that.
what about the places you're gonna be digging it up?
We're gonna be looking for that. So if there is a conflict with one of their gas laterals or something like that, then PG&E will have to lower it. If it's in conflict, but not just because it's old.
Water goes right through everybody's house on one side, and the gas goes through the other side of the street on the other part, through our yards.
Correct.
You're lining up with new water main. So the existing water main goes in.
Are you gonna dig those up? Or just leave them in the ground and then switch everything into the middle of the road?
The final detail line
In the road where it should be?
that's the current standard that we're in the process.
Okay.
Oh, ma'am, ma'am? Oh, sorry, we wanna give her exact assessment.
Oh, we will. We'll give it to you.
Oh, restroom, I'm sorry.
Laterals, but water lines.
I'm sorry?
Laterals, but water lines, question. I did see in the first, second slide that main line and laterals. Is that laterals that's going to go to the meter, and is that why you're going towards drive?
You're gonna replace the water laterals, the water main laterals, right?
Just to the meter, and then the homeowner is still responsible for the meter going forward.
Correct, yes. So the district's responsibility, and that just off the meter is like a copper buffer. And then anything beyond that is
So when you spoke on lateral, if the slide said laterals, it's just the meter, like the 5 feet, or
Between the main and the meter, that's the lateral. And the reason I was stopping her is because, again, we do have cards explaining for each, if you come up to us and tell us you're the property owner of so-and-so property, we have a preliminary assessment for you. So we do want to make this, share as much information with, like we said, we understand. If I was voting, I would want as much information as I could. We are going to share as much information as we can with you prior to the ballots coming out, and then after the ballots, you have the whole engineer's report, and everything will be disclosed in there as well. So, do you have any last
I think that was it. I mean, I think everybody asked really good and great questions. Anybody have any other questions or anything like Jason said? If you give me your address, your property address, I can give you your exact proposed assessment calculation here for your specific property. So,
But so timing schedule, so as Ed said, the council does have to adopt a notice of intent, was it?
resolution of intent.
Resolution of intent. That will happen to probably, the earliest is September because our council's on recess in August. So the earliest you'll see that is in September, and then, the engineer's report will be released, and 45 days minimum after that is when you would have to calculate the vote. So we're a couple months out at the minimum of us starting this process. So with that, again, this meeting is recorded. You can go home right now on your smartphone and watch it on YouTube.
And hit
Hit
subscribe.
like,
Yeah.
hit subscribe, and all that kind of stuff you hear. But it is online. And the slides will be posted online on the city's website. There is the web page on the notice that you were mailed. And by the way, when he said property owners, the notices were mailed to the property. The notices that you just got were mailed to the property owners, not to the residents. Now, if the property owner lives there, then of course it went there.
If after reviewing the YouTube video, we still have questions, what is the best way to reach out?
This you reach out to Jason, and his email is actually on this card here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh yeah, so we did want to say, so if those people on Zoom, if you do want a card sent to you, you can email my email address. It's on the presentation. location, and I will put it in the chat right now. Oh, you can't? Okay, it's, I think my, we'll get it to you. Can you put the chat? Sorry. Well, we'll give us a call if you're online, and we'll get you your property card. All right, thank you.